Welcome back, friends. Today we're diving into another round of big questions. Thought-provoking, fascinating, and sometimes even funny ones. Each of you who sent in a question has sparked something worth exploring, and I can't wait to dig into them. Let's get started. Question 1. Hair in The Chosen. Our first question comes from Jenna in Ontario, Canada. She asks, have you noticed that Jonathan, Noah, and Shahar's hair has gotten longer every season? What a sharp observation. And yes, their hair has definitely grown each season. In fact, most of the cast members' hair has followed the same pattern. Think of little James. His hair has gotten noticeably longer as well. Now, historically, constant haircuts would have been far less common. Men weren't going to the barber every couple of weeks like we do today. Hair length often shifted with life stages, and sometimes with social or spiritual meaning. But here's the fascinating part. The changes in hair on the show aren't just about time passing. They actually reflect character development. Just like when the characters in Season 4 received new clothing, not because their old garments were too dirty, but because their identities were shifting. They were no longer the same people who had begun the journey years earlier. Take Peter as an example. When he undergoes transformation, his clothing changes along with him. The same is true with the hair. It's symbolic. As characters grow, their outward appearance grows with them. It's subtle, but deeply meaningful. Question 2. The Way of the Chosen. Next up is Crystal, who remembers hearing about a project called The Way of the Chosen. She wonders if the same actors from The Chosen will continue in that series. That's a great question, and the short answer is almost certainly yes. Think about it. When a show becomes this successful, the main cast rarely gets replaced. For example, who could imagine a new actor suddenly showing up as Peter? Shahar has defined that role. Unless something unexpected happens, actors are usually eager to return to such career-defining parts. Shows like Friends or The Office kept their casts consistent for years. The same goes here. The continuation series, The Way of the Chosen, will likely feature familiar faces. Of course, there will also be new ones like Saul, later Paul, and others we haven't yet met. Pentecost, the martyrdom of Stephen, and the spread of the early church will require both old and new characters. Here's the catch. The series isn't written yet, and filming is years away, probably 6 or more. But the vision is clear. It will tell the story of the Acts of the Apostles with a balance of familiar characters and new ones stepping into history. Question 3. Jesus' humanity. After Ascension, Marty from Missouri brings a profound question. When Jesus ascended into heaven, was he still fully man and fully God, or only God? This question strikes at the heart of Christian belief. The traditional understanding is that Jesus remains both fully human and fully divine forever. At no point does he cease to be either. From his birth to eternity, he embodies both realities. After the resurrection, he appeared in a glorified body. Some details are mysterious, like why disciples didn't always recognize him on the road to Emmaus, or when Mary first mistook him for a gardener. Yet Thomas could still touch his wounds. That suggests continuity with his earthly body even in glorification. What about his scars? Scripture shows he keeps them. Those wounds seem to be part of his eternal identity, a testimony to his sacrifice. So yes, he ascended with humanity intact. The mystery is great, but the message is powerful. Jesus forever bridges God and mankind, carrying both in himself. Question 4. The Crimson Thread tradition now. Palisa from the Kingdom of Lesotho asks something few have heard of, the Talmudic tradition of the Crimson Thread, turning white on Yom Kippur. This tradition tells of a scarlet thread tied to the scapegoat during sacrifice. Afterward, the thread was said to turn white, symbolizing sins made white as snow. Fascinatingly, some writings suggest this miracle ceased about 40 years before the destruction of the temple, which lines up with the crucifixion of Jesus. Historically, though there's no hard evidence outside of Jewish writings. Personally, I value scripture and archaeology most, but traditions can still carry symbolic meaning. If the story were true, it would beautifully parallel Christ's sacrifice. Would The Chosen include something like this? Probably not. The series leans heavily on biblical and archaeological grounding, not on traditions with little evidence. Other shows, like House of David, explore traditions more freely. But The Chosen aims to keep its narrative historically rooted. Question 5. Judas and the Disciples, Jay asks, do you think Judas ever tried to explain his actions to the disciples before giving back the money and taking his life? What an intriguing thought. Scripturally, we have no evidence Judas did this. He takes the money, later regrets it, tries to return it, and then ends his life. If he had faced the disciples, the outcome would likely have been violent. Think of Peter, who cut off a man's ear in the garden. If he had faced Judas, the very betrayer of Jesus, Peter or Simon the Zealot may not have hesitated. Still, the guilt Judas felt was immense. His isolation was probably intentional. In The Chosen, there may be brief interactions. Behind-the-scenes glimpses suggest conversations with John or Peter. But historically, it's unlikely Judas returned to explain himself. His story ended in despair, which is part of what makes it such a tragic warning. Question 6. Cremation and Faith Teresa from Minnesota asks, does cremation go against God's will? This is a question many wrestle with. Some traditions, like Catholicism in the past, discouraged cremation. Others, like many Protestant groups, see no issue with it. Biblically, there's no direct command against cremation. The concern often comes from resurrection beliefs. Ancient Jews preserved bones in ossuaries because they believed in bodily resurrection. But if God can raise the dead, surely he can restore anyone, whether their body turned to dust, ashes, or scattered atoms. Even apostles faced violent deaths. Some burned, some torn apart. That didn't disqualify them from resurrection. So the answer, cremation does not prevent God's power. What matters is faith, not the state of our remains. Question 7, why Paul and not Nicodemus? Anastasia wonders, why did God choose Saul, later Paul, to preach to the Gentiles, instead of someone like Nicodemus or Gamaliel? This is brilliant. Imagine if Nicodemus, already sympathetic to Jesus, had been the chosen messenger. Why Paul, the persecutor? Here's why. Paul's story is the ultimate testimony of transformation. From persecutor to defender, his life itself became proof of God's power. Add to this his youth, energy, and Roman citizenship. His background allowed him to travel widely and access places closed to others. Paul was uniquely positioned. A Jew trained under Gamaliel, yet also a Roman citizen with rights and protection. His life bridged two worlds, Jewish and Gentile, making him the perfect vessel to carry the gospel across cultures. His conversion became one of history's most dramatic and inspiring stories, showing no one is beyond redemption. Question 8. Why didn't the disciples understand Jesus? Our final question comes from Melissa. When Jesus spoke to the disciples, he sometimes knew they wouldn't understand. Did he realize that, and why did he seem frustrated? Yes, he knew. He even said at the Last Supper, "You cannot understand now, but later you will." Yet his humanity allowed frustration. It's like a parent explaining something to a child. Even when you know they can't fully grasp it, you still feel the strain when they miss it again and again. The frustration was real, but it came from love. He longed for them to understand, even knowing the Spirit would reveal more in time. His responses remind us that divine patience doesn't cancel human emotion. Closing thoughts. Every question today pointed us deeper into the mysteries of Scripture, history, and faith. From hair length to resurrection, from Judas's choices to Paul's calling, each one invites us to look closer, to wrestle with truth, and to grow in understanding. Thank you for bringing these thoughtful questions. Keep sending them, because each one makes us explore more of the richness of faith and story. Until next time, stay curious, keep seeking, and never stop asking the deep questions.